there's a psychiatrist, Dr. Daniel Amen. He's like in his 70s, super sharp. He's been making content for the last several years, has a practice. He's worked with over 250,000 patients over the years, like his practice, analyze brains, like in-person consults, treating all depression, anxiety being like the big ones. His number one piece of advice for someone who is that he said specifically related to depression, I would imagine it applies to everything on that spectrum, as well as a host of other things that we may or may not call mental illnesses. But the number one thing that people should stop doing to feel less depressed is stop watching the news. Now, I think that we have internalized that. We understand that. I would say going back to like 2010 to 2013 time frame, like that's been known and executed on, I would say, at least for me, solidly. However, the news isn't just turning on the TV and watching CNN or Fox or MSNBC anymore. There's news all over this thing constantly, no matter what platform you're on. And I've realized over the last few weeks that, especially with all the stuff in Israel, my Twitter is just like the most depressing and like news-ridden thing ever. So even if it's not coming from a mainstream organization, it's still constantly plugged in to tragedy and atrocity around the world. And I'm not making this specific about 10/7 or Israel, but just news in general. But now news has infiltrated this thing that most of us are addicted to and like consuming out of constantly. It was a nice reminder of, exercise, like move, get sunlight, social interaction. These things are all good for our mental health. But this dude who's worked with tons of people had at the top of his list, stop watching the news. And then with the caveat, yes, you should be educated, and you can be educated through, ways where you're not committing hours and hours every single day to just consuming information.
Dude, I love that. I agree with it wholeheartedly. There's a lot that I would say about that. Number one being like social media, like the short form content has this really unique way of making you feel like you're becoming educated when you're not. It's a very unique way of giving you a lot of information with one of my favorite quotes is social media is where nuance goes to die. And you're getting a lot of very face value information that you think is educating you, and it's actually not. I think if someone wants to get educated, whether it's on whatever conflict, whether it's the Israeli-Palestinian, whether it's Russia-Ukraine, whatever it is, like the place you should be going to is like history books. You don't go to, if you're only looking at current events, it would sort of be like, imagine you have a client who's like, oh yeah, I'm really struggling. I've struggled my whole life with my weight, whatever. And all you wanted to know is like, well, what'd you have for lunch today? That's all the information you have. What'd you eat for lunch today? Like, and that's it. And you only see them eat that lunch every day. Same thing. Like if that person, they can eat whatever they want. Like every day I see them, like we wrote about in our book, that person at the office, they always have a chocolate bar. They like every single day they can eat whatever they want. It's like, well, yeah, you see them eating a chocolate bar. What they have for breakfast, what they have for lunch, what about their workouts? What have they been doing their whole life? How much muscle have they built? Like there's so many aspects to this that you're not seeing. It's when you're looking at these individual posts on social media and you think you're becoming informed on the topic, you're actually just seeing one glimpse that like you cannot confirm what's actually going on. You're seeing one snapshot in time that is, by the way, specifically designed to make you want to watch it for longer. I'm watching a ton of platforms, a ton of people, especially now with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, people who are blowing their platforms up with now millions and millions of followers. And they're noticing that like, oh my God, my account's growing, but getting so many more people following me. If you think that these people who are oftentimes calling themselves journalists and reporters are not overwhelmingly happy that their accounts are growing dramatically and getting more attention and now getting more sponsorships and seeing their business grows, literally using a conflict and people dying as a means of building their own business, you're out of your mind. Like this is their ability. Like the more they post, the more likes they get, the more shares, the more followers. they're building their business on the backs of people dying, and they're often using this as a way to grow their audience. So it's there, and this is what the news does. The news does it as well. Like, okay, what can we do to get people to watch, to get more advertiser dollars? It's the exact same thing, just on a different platform.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. Fuck the news.